A family rents a beautiful house for the summer, unaware that their landlord is spying and live streaming their every move to his demanding audience on the dark web. In the dead of night, a man searches for hidden cameras to purchase off the internet. Elsewhere, in a rental home, a woman asks her husband to call Amy, the homeowner, because the hot water pipe is broken. He phones the number and is surprised to hear a man answer. He tries to explain that the tube needs fixing, but the man on the other end quickly dismisses him and ends the call. Infuriated, he complains to his wife, but she thinks it must be Amy's husband who answered. They begin making out while a bald, middle-aged man, Gerald, watches them from a camera installed in the bathroom. After the couple leaves, the bald man enters the house to fix the pipe. Once inside, he begins sniffing the woman's swimsuit and pillow and jams her toothbrush in his mouth, relishing the taste. He's about to leave but spots the woman's keys on the kitchen counter and takes them to make copies. When the couple are back in the house, they discuss where they'll vacation next when she suddenly realizes her keys are missing. She asks her husband where they are and he suggests searching her jean pockets. She goes to check and finds the keys there, but she's still baffled because she remembers putting them on the kitchen counter earlier that day. Her husband then borrows her toothbrush because his fell on the floor. After he puts it in his mouth, he's mortified by how disgusting it tastes and asks her to see a doctor, but she just scoffs at him. Elsewhere, Gerald goes inside another woman's apartment to install hidden cameras. He goes to the bathroom to set the hardware when all of a sudden, the renter, Sarah, and her dog arrive. Immediately, she senses something amiss but brushes it off. She goes to the bathroom to shower, but as she pulls back the curtain, Gerald attacks her and knocks her unconscious. He then pours cough syrup through the door gap to poison the dog. Meanwhile, a family is looking through a house rental website for their vacation. The wife, Lori, checks one place but her husband, Arthur, declines, reasoning that the owner looks dodgy. They both settle on a house hosted by Amy, who they think has a trustworthy face, unaware that Gerald only uses the picture of the random woman to attract potential renters. Concurrently, Gerald binds Sarah and leaves the flat to start his truck when he spots a wheeled garbage bin. Realizing he can use it to transport the woman's body inconspicuously, he drags it back to the apartment. Sarah wakes up and tries to call for help. However, Gerald returns and knocks her out using chloroform. He then dumps her body in the bin and hauls it back to his truck. Gerald arrives at his house to change his clothes, and he ignores his son, Junior, who asks him where he's been. Later, Gerald drives to a house in the middle of the woods and goes inside his surveillance room, where he watches all the footage. The following day, the family drives to the secluded house and are amazed at how beautiful it is. Arthur informs Lori that he'll be going back out to buy food for later. In another room, their daughter, Molly, and her friend, Daniel, change into their swimsuits and head to the pool. Meanwhile, Gerald is watching the live feed of the women swimming while breathing heavily. After a while, Daniel notices Molly's younger brother, Kyle, spying on them and teases Daniel that she thinks her brother's cute. Later, Daniel joins Kyle as he watches TV. Daniel flirts with him, but Lori and Arthur interrupt them and tell her to put some clothes on. In the bathroom, Molly undresses and takes a shower while Gerald watches her. He then live streams his feed of the family onto the dark web, which immediately garners hundreds of viewers. Sarah regains consciousness and finds herself bloody and chained to a wall. She tries to scream for help, but Gerald forces her down a dark underground cellar where he's been keeping another woman, Claire. Gerald then returns to the surveillance room to continue watching the clueless tenants. Meanwhile, Arthur is complaining to Lori about the house. He's unsettled by the idea of staying in someone else's home, but his wife placates him. The two friends tuck themselves into bed, while Kyle goes outside to smoke a joint. Daniel sneaks up behind him and invites him for a swim. Not understanding her intentions, he declines, and amidst Daniel leaves. Kyle then realizes what she meant and follows her. Later, they chat by the pool and Kyle starts complaining about his mom letting other people rent out their home while they're on vacation. She teases him for a bit and decides to call it a night, leaving a flustered Kyle behind. When Daniel is back in the room, Molly admonishes her for leading her brother on and tells her to stop doing it. In the underground cellar, Sarah tries to make a break for it, but Claire warns her against it, saying Gerald killed another woman who attempted to escape. In Gerald's main house, a delivery man hands over a package to Junior, who notes the foul stench from the box and asks him to check it. Junior quickly opens it and is shocked to discover dozens of spy cameras. Suddenly, Gerald arrives and asks him who was at the front door. He quickly hides the package and says it was just a courier. Gerald then goes to the vacation house after the family has left. While installing more cameras in Molly and Daniel's room, he caresses their possessions. Later that day, the family returns, and Arthur notices the front door is unlocked. Alarmed, he quickly checks the girl's room. Daniel pops up behind him and asks to use the bathroom. He leaves and she undresses in front of the mirror. Gerald watches her excitedly and his viewers bombard the the comment section with lewd remarks. One spectator even offers to buy Daniel's underwear for $5,000. Gerald spots the post and considers taking the risk for the obscene amount of money. In the underground cellar, Sarah, undeterred by Claire's warning, tries to break free from their prison. She manages to pry open the hatch a bit when they hear Gerald approaching. Fearing he'll hurt them for attempting to flee, they cower in a corner, with Sarah ready to pounce. Fortunately, he doesn't notice and just drops off their meal. In the vacation house, Molly stumbles upon Daniel and Kyle drinking together, with the latter already tipsy. She derides her friend for letting her brother drink and orders him to leave. Claire opens up to Sarah about how she's given up trying to escape, and the latter asserts that she must persist. Claire reveals that she gave birth during her capture and wonders mournfully what Gerald did to her son. With the newfound resolve, Claire tells her that once Gerald lets them out to bathe them, that's when they'll make their escape. In Gerald's main house, Junior stows away in his father's truck. Gerald drives back to his country house and is horrified to discover all of the video feeds are down. He then leaves and Junior sneaks inside the room to investigate. Gerald quickly drives back to the vacation house to turn on the modem. In the surveillance room, Junior sits petrified after discovering his father's perverted hobby. Gerald slips into the girl's room and pockets one of Daniel's undergarments when he hears a noise. Seeing that Daniel has used the powder room across the hall, Gerald tries to tiptoe down the hall quietly, but she calls out to him repeatedly, thinking he's Molly. Daniel becomes unsettled when her friend doesn't answer. She goes out to check, but Arthur appears and tells her to ask the others what they'd like for dinner. Moments later, the women return to their room and Daniel notices the inside of her bag is in disarray. Molly surmises Kyle was trying to get their bottle of vodka and rushes out to scold him. Later that night, Daniel confronts Kyle for stealing her underwear, leaving him confused. Catching his father's truck by the driveway, Junior quickly leaves and bolts all of the padlocks to the surveillance room. Gerald sees this and checks on the two women to see if they've escaped. In the bedroom, Molly notices Daniel's irate demeanor and asks what's wrong. Daniel bursts into an angry tirade about how most men are creeps, with Molly sharing the sentiment. Elsewhere, a triumphant Gerald packs Daniel's underwear into a shipping envelope, disgusting Junior. Later that night, Gerald wakes the women to bathe them. He takes Claire first, leaving a chained-up Sarah attempting to retrieve the water jug where they've hidden some sharpened sticks. Gerald and Claire return to see the spilled jug. Sarah lies that she accidentally spilled it because she was thirsty, so Gerald holds up a cup for her to drink. He then unchains her from the wall but handcuffs her as they walk to the house. In the bathroom, he uncuffs her so she can undress. However, Sarah uses this opportunity to punch him and flees to the garage. She blocks the door with a bookcase and demands he release them both. Gerald then pumps thick fumes into the vents to incapacitate her. Sarah tries to stop it, but she's too short to reach it. She's about to collapse when she suddenly spots an axe. Confident with her weapon, Sarah taunts her assailant to open the door. However, Gerald unlocks the main garage door and shoots her dead. Meanwhile, the girls are hanging out by the pool when Kyle joins them. Sensing the heavy tension between the two, Kali questions what happened. Daniel goads him, but Kyle leaves instead. He runs into his father, who commends him for trying to hook up with Daniel, but an exasperated Kyle tells him off. Concurrently, Gerald orders Claire to dig a hole for Sarah's corpse while he sits and watches her. Meanwhile, Kyle begs his parents to join them for date night. Arthur decides to confront the women for alienating Kyle, but they stand their ground. With no other choice, Lori and Arthur bring their son along for dinner. With the house to themselves, the two friends begin drinking by the pool. Gerald gets turned on as his viewership skyrockets to thousands. An anonymous viewer demands to buy one of the women for a fortune, but Gerald insists they're not for sale. Frustrated, the viewer asks others in the comment sections to abduct them for him. One viewer gleefully accepts because he was able to figure out the address. Gerald quickly blocks all of them and ends the livestream. He then rushes outside of the vacation house to await the incoming abductor. Finished with their swim, the women retreat to the house and watch TV. Molly realizes she's tired and decides to take a shower, leaving Daniel alone in the living room. Meanwhile, Junior heads back to Gerald's surveillance room and watches Molly undress. The abductor then arrives and sneaks inside the vacation house. Moments later, Daniel hears noises down the darkened hall. She goes to check it when Molly comes out of the shower to tell her to hide their booze. Daniel turns back and finds that she spilled some vodka on the couch. Alarmed by the mess, she attempts to look for cleaning materials in the kitchen. When Molly joins her, Daniel explains that she soiled the sofa, and the girls quickly try to clean it up. All of a sudden, they hear a noise and think Molly's parents have returned home early, and they start to panic. Molly goes to greet them, but is confused to find no one at the front door. As Daniel walks towards their room, the assailant strikes her from behind. Sensing something amiss, Molly tries to call for her friend, but she gets tasered by the attacker, immobilizing her. As he binds her, Molly sees Gerald standing at the end of the hall and starts to scream. The man then places both bound women on the bed and admires his work. When Gerald suddenly attacks him, the two men scuffle, but the stronger Gerald manages to beat the man to death with a hammer. He returns to the women, who thank him for saving them. However, Gerald informs them he has to dispose of them as they've seen his face, and the terrified women scream for their lives. Junior watches all of this in terror and picks up the phone to call the authorities. Molly's family drives back to the house and notices Gerald's truck in the driveway. When the parents enter enter the house, they're horrified to discover a dead body in the hallway. Arthur quickly searches for Molly and consoles her. Meanwhile, Kyle is checking the truck when he hears Daniel's muffled screams from inside. He's about to rescue her when Gerald hits him from behind, knocking him out. Gerald then quickly makes his escape. In the cellar, while Claire mourns Sarah, she hears incessant knocking on the hatch. She checks to see the commotion and is shocked to find Junior staring back at her. Daniel finds a pocket knife in the back of Gerald's truck and uses it to free herself. Gerald arrives at his base and notices all the undone padlocks on the door. Thinking he's been raided by intruders, he readies his shotgun. Seeing Gerald has gone inside the building, Daniel runs to the front of the truck and drives away. Down the road, she spots Claire and Junior calling for help and stops to let them in. However, the engine stalls and they're unable to move. Claire instructs Junior to pop the hood open when Gerald starts shooting at them. He orders his son to stop, but Junior manages to fix the engine and Claire immediately drives in reverse to run Gerald over. Junior stares at his father's body for a few seconds before Claire tells him to get back in the vehicle so they can escape. They arrive at the scene but are surprised to find a woman's corpse instead of Gerald's. The detective surmises the woman must have tried to help him, but got killed instead, and Gerald used her vehicle to flee. In Mexico, Gerald admonishes a man for snooping around his van, saying the noises he's hearing from inside are animals. As he boards the vehicle, he greets 3 terrified women who are tied up and gagged in the back.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.